Welcome back to MugenCast. This week it's episode 29. Dimitri Williams, your host with the most, back again for another fun-filled 20 to 25 minutes of creative conversation and basically whatever else comes to my mind. So I hope you guys have been good since the last episode. A few things that I'm going to talk about before I hop into the creative segment this week. So one, I created what should I call it? That Instagram page for MugenCast. It's just a standalone. Stuttered there for a second. Just a standalone page just for MugenCast content. So it's going to have new episodes, little snippets from episodes, me going into a little bit more detail as to what prompted me to create the episode, just things like that. And I'm really hoping you guys are going to enjoy that. It'll just give you a little bit more background into just how I think and how I create these things. And yeah, I just think it's going to be a cool way to just separate it from my other stuff and just give you guys a one-stop shop for MugenCast content. If that's all you know me for, if that's all you're really interested in, you guys can just go there and you'll be good to go. So that's the first thing. What else has been happening? Oh, also, I've been making it my mission recently to take photos every single day, going out at some point, whether it's early in the morning, later in the evening, or even just for 20 minutes in like my backyard or something, just going out, taking pictures, pushing myself to be creative. Basically what I tell you guys to do, I've really been trying to live up to that expectation, that not even expectation I set for you guys, but just the challenges I put forward to you guys to keep your creativity going and getting it done however you can and getting it in however you can. I've been really trying to live that recently. I was doing it before, but not as consistently. So that's been really cool. I feel a lot better doing that. It's just like, I don't know, just being creative is just fun. That's all I can really say. And it's sometimes when you think about going to do it, like just for me, it's picture taking, but it can be videography, writing, whatever for you. You'll think, oh, it's going to be such a pain. Like, I would rather just rest, especially if you're tired, you're working, you're doing all these other things. Everybody's multitasking. Everybody's doing a lot of different things. And you just kind of go into it with that mindset sometimes, but just trying to push that to the back of your head and just forcing yourself to go out, it really is good for you. I really think it has like a mental health benefit, and just overall, it's a great part of life that I think everybody should embrace in whatever form or fashion that creativity comes to you in. So that's been the second kind of development. My sleep schedule has also gotten back on track. One of my buddies, a friend of mine named Grantley, who may actually be listening to this episode, he was talking about the sleep app that he had, and it just made me think like, man, and he's a super busy guy, and I'm like, if he can get his sleep right, I should be able to get my sleep right too. So I've been focusing on going to bed at the right time, getting all my work done as fast as I can, and really focusing in, and this is actually going to be a point I make after this one, but really focusing in on things and just holding myself accountable, really. And with that, I actually listened to this podcast saying that, and I think I might have talked about this before, just focusing on one thing at a time and really giving all your effort to that one activity you're doing. So if I'm at work, I'm completely zoned in on work. If I'm like editing pictures, I'm completely focused in on that. I try not to check my phone that much. I try not to engage in outside conversation. I don't want to like be on the phone and doing something at the same time. I just want to have a one-track mind on whatever I'm doing so I can do it to the best of my ability, then move on to the next thing. And I think that's made me a lot more efficient. So I recommend you guys try that in whatever field you guys are in, that's applicable towards. I think that could be helpful, honestly. It's something that's helped me for sure. So that's the third thing. So like I said, it's a lot of different things. And let me see. I think that's all I really have to talk about for right now. There's one thing I'm going to discuss at the end that's kind of a larger background project. I'm going to be working on like a collaboration type of deal, but we'll get to that at the end. So this week's creative discussion is going to center around the irrationality of success, being successful, what that means, and why it doesn't always make sense. Honestly, you can go back when stories have ended, and people's tales have already been told, and you can say, okay, this got them here, that got them there, X got to Y, A, B. You can just go. You can follow that path to the success that they had. But in other ways, it's a little bit more, I guess it's a little bit more dubious. It's a little bit more hidden of why this person was able to make it and why did this person make it and this person didn't make it, that type of stuff. I was just thinking about this one day and I thought it could make for a good podcast topic. I talk about success a lot, not necessarily just monetarily with making a lot of money and stuff like that, but just being successful within yourself and being happy with your personal results and whatever you can yield. That's probably more what I discuss, honestly, rather than the money part, because that I clearly haven't mastered yet. But anyway, so I was thinking a lot of successful people are kind of weird, to be frank. One interesting thing is that the most successful people we know are oftentimes like really unusual. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed that. And not just unusual because they're successful, but their personalities, like their opinions, interests, and all that tend to be significantly different from the average person, which seems reasonable. To get to where they are now, they had to take risks, plural, most of the time, and think outside the box and be pioneers of their field or their jobs or whatever they were doing. But that's what's crazy about it. When you're Joe Schmo, let's say, and you think outside the box, you're labeled, you're jeered, and you're looked down upon, which is so funny to me, honestly, because and I think this starts honestly when we're younger. I think the saying goes like the nail that sticks up the most is hammered down fastest or something like that. And we're almost not necessarily taught, but we just learn innately that if we're sticking out when we're young and we're going against the grain and being outside the pack, you're going to suffer because of that. And you're going to be made fun of because of that. And you're going to be mocked, et cetera, et cetera. And it's only, I think, later in life that we really learn that branching out, being your own person, being an individual is actually good for you. And it's what you should be doing. But on the flip side, if you think outside the box and it turns out to be successful, then you're an innovator, you're a visionary, and all these positive things. So the question that left me with was, what's the difference between Joe Schmo and a really successful person? And honestly, the only thing is the outcome. Joe Schmo thinking outside the box is no less impressive than Mark Cuban thinking outside the box. But the only reason when you say Mark Cuban's name and you have this attachment of like greatness and success and an innovator and a wonderful individual attached to his name, is that the outcome of his uniqueness and his individuality was more successful than Joe over here who came up with an idea that went nowhere. It's the outcome that really makes all the difference, which is crazy. It's almost like that other saying, the writers of history are the winners. The people who are remembered in the most favorable manner are the people who won, quote unquote. Which is really cool in one sense, because we're all just one great idea away from being the super successful person. It just kind of shows you how close you always are to being, or to going from just Joe Schmo. I'm going to be using that that name often, but going from Joe Schmo to a hero, right? Zero to hero, just like that. You're only one good idea away. And that's motivating in a way, because it makes you just want to keep pushing harder, because you never know how close you actually are, which is kind of annoying. I wish there was like a little, if you guys have ever played video games, you have like the little completion bar to say you're 89% through, 90% through. I wish you could have that for our success and our ideas to know how close we actually are, but you don't. But you're just one idea away. But on the other hand, it really says something about the hypocrisy of people, right? The opinions of those around you really mean nothing. And I was talking about this on episode 28, Who Matters, but they really mean nothing. They change so easily, it's not worth keeping track of. Because if you think about it, the same people who are mocking you one day are the same people the next day who are going to be cheering you and saying, wow, this person's so great. I was always a supporter of them. I just was critical of them for the moment, stupid stuff like that. And you see this in sports, especially when, a player's playing badly, then he starts playing great. And now all of a sudden he's the MVP and he's great and he's on every talk show. And you see this with celebrities and just people who are in the public eye. You see this hypocrisy often. And you see the paradoxical nature of people's praise. It just switches so fast. It's like they don't even have a true opinion. What you say one day literally contradicts what you said the day before. It's pretty crazy. So I say this to say, never stop being an individual, for one. Even if things do work out in your favor, never stop blazing your own path and revel in your individuality. It's a great thing to know you're not a slave towards public opinion. It's good to know that you're not so attached to what other people are thinking of you that you can't even think outside the box, do your own thing, and be your own person. Actually, one of the people who taught me this in, I guess, in real life, I would say, like, of course you see people that you can look up to, on the TV, on the internet, etc. But one of the people I really saw this from was my buddy Jake, who's really kind of a against the grain type of guy. And if you watch my documentary on YouTube, Insight, by the way, episode 1, Inside the Wolf Den, you can check it out on YouTube. I really liked the way he kind of lives his life against the grain, and sometimes, as you'll see in the documentary, that went against him and it would bite him sometimes, but it was just the way he decided to live his life. And you can't always have the best of both worlds, that you can live your life the way you want to and also get the praise from individuals, but at the end of the day, you have to think what matters to you more, your own well-being, your own satisfaction in who you are, or the opinions of those around you. And I think we all know what the answer to that question should be, whether you decide to answer it one way or another. I guess that just depends. So in the end, you can think, create, and be whatever version of you think is right, successful or not. At the end of the day, that's what I believe we should kind of tune ourselves toward. Now, there I go again, saying the word tune, just like I was last week. But yeah, it was a quick little point I wanted to make for this week's episode. I actually have to run in probably like 10 minutes or so. So, and not literally run, I mean, I have to go somewhere. So I decided I didn't want to make this episode that long-winded. I just kind of wanted to get right to the heart of the issue. But before I go, I'm going to talk about that project I was saying in the beginning I was working on kind of in the background or thinking about doing. So I guess it's not necessarily even a project. It's more of a collaboration between me and a few photographically inclined individuals that I know. So I was thinking about doing a photo walk where maybe a few of my friends who are into photography, we all go, maybe choose a location or just take a whole day and isolate it for photography. And I've seen people do this before, like on Instagram or on YouTube, and have different like activities and things like that that they'll do throughout the day, go to different spots and shoot. And I think I want to organize that. And what I'm trying to think now is kind of laying the groundwork for it, like who's going to be kind of documenting that day. Maybe I'll take that role in terms of creating video and kind of doing like a whole blogging thing. So all the guys and girls, if I don't really have any friends who are into photography who are female, unfortunately, but either way, all the people who are going to be there can kind of get some content from that day, put it on their respective channels or pages or whatever, because I have a lot of friends who are creatives in one guise or another. So I think it would be really cool. I kind of have some people in mind already, a list of maybe like 4 or 5 people. Don't want to make it too huge, that I think would be great for it. And I'm really looking forward to doing it and possibly sharing that content with you guys whenever we can kind of get a date hammered out. And everyone can kind of get on the same page in that regard. So really looking forward to that. That's going to be really, really fun. Aside from that, I'm trying to think, is there any other critical updates I need to give you guys? I don't think so. I'm loving doing the MugenCast episodes more consistently now. That's been really fun. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm obviously mixing in a little bit more of a soundscape now, trying to do some very basic audio editing. I'm not good at it whatsoever. I'm just kind of learning as I go, and just trying to put forth a better episode than the last one. Every time just aiming to get better, just a little bit. And I think the background music adds a nice little ambiance to things. I like kind of transitioning my ideas as well with the music. It just melds together so well. And actually, 2 of my favorite podcast audio dramas are coming back in the fall. One actually just started back last week. We're Alive, the story of survival. I think it's the 3rd kind of season of that, called Gold Rush. It's really good. If you haven't listened to that podcast whatsoever, you have a ton of great content waiting for you. So search on the iTunes podcast app or wherever you listen to your podcast. It's probably there. So that's one. And then also the Leviathan Chronicles, which is amazing. I think I talked about this in some of my previous episodes, just a soundscape they create and how great the audio is. It's just like, it's it's goals, honestly, for this podcast. When, one day we'll get there, get some better equipment, get a little bit more versed in the audio editing, and we can make it there. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end it there. Episode 29. I think I'm gonna call this one Irrational. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It'll be snippets of this episode, a little bit more background into how I devised the idea for this episode, and maybe a little bit more into what I was thinking on the MugenCast Instagram page, which is literally just at MugenCast, just the way the podcast is spelled. And yeah, I'll see you guys in next week's episode. Peace.